Good evening. I'm Bob Dunn in the Channel 2 newsroom. Vandals hit a school in the valley. If you're a renter, we have some bad news for you. And in sports, color the day red, blue, and gold. Details just ahead.
Don Rickles versus National Car Rental.
You signed this maintenance checklist?
Yes, sir. I inspected your Buick Century.
What'd you do before that? Inspect the Titanic?
Is there something wrong? I checked every item on the list. What about the wipers?
Or does my wife have to run alongside the car with an umbrella?
Sir, that's the lights. The lights? The wipers. The wipers.
National's maintenance checklist. It certifies the condition of your car in writing at most locations.
When you travel on business, you've got your hands full. Luckily, on American, our DC-10s and 727s have plenty of room for carry-on bags. And only American has wide-body comfort and overhead compartments in first class and coach on every plane. Making both you and your luggage comfortable are two of the things we do best.
We're American Airlines, doing what we do best.
Ford introduces the brand new Pinto Pony MPG. This 2.3-liter Pinto has a wider stance, more road-hugging weight, and a bigger engine than Datsun B210, Toyota Corolla, Honda, Opel, Fiat, VW Beetle, Rabbit, Dasher, and Chevette, yet still has EPA estimates of 38 miles per gallon highway, 25 city. Your actual mileage may vary. The Pinto Pony MPG. The closer you look, the better we look.
Good evening. I'm Bob Dunn. More school vandalism this weekend, this time in the Reseda Elementary School. So far, no estimate of damage, but it does not appear high. Mainly, it was a matter of cleaning up a real mess. American flags were dumped on the floor and dirt from potted plants thrown over them. The main office and some classrooms were badly cluttered, and the vandals also tried to set 2 fires but failed. West Valley Police are investigating this latest incident. There are some new developments tonight in the bizarre story out of Newport, Oregon. At least 20 people are missing after being told to give away all their possessions, including their children, so they could be taken in a UFO to a better life somewhere in outer space. Well, the first real clue came today when a woman in the area told of getting a postcard from her missing son saying, "I am leaving this earth and will not see you again." And now police in San Jose are investigating an ad in today's paper saying, and we quote, "UFO beings are here to help us with a transition to a higher level." There also is an invitation to a public meeting next Wednesday night. It's the same sort of notice that preceded the sudden unexplained departure of those people in Oregon. And also missing for a short time today, Rosemary Kennedy, the mentally retarded elder sister of Senator Edward Kennedy. She apparently wandered away from a church service this morning in Chicago, but was found safe 5 hours later, a few blocks from the church. A Pomona College student is reported in serious condition tonight after being shot by a Los Angeles sheriff's deputy. Authorities say Cesar Noriega attacked a deputy after the car in which he was riding was stopped by sheriff's officers in East Los Angeles. 2 other youths in the car also were said to have attacked the deputy and his partner. The officers, however, were not hurt, but Noriega was shot. This was the first anniversary of the Los Angeles County Alcohol Detoxification Center. The center in the 600 block of East 5th Street is designed as an alternative for many alcoholics who call Skid Row their home. The ultimate hope that down-and-out men and women, too, can be cured of the disease. The living quarters are not elaborate, but a far cry from a pile of newspapers in an alley. There also are facilities for work, which few of the residents had used in their search for the price of a bottle. Nathan Roberts talked with Ernie and Charles, who came to the center about a year ago. Ernie talked about drinking and how he chose the center after being arrested.
Well, at first, I didn't like it. But after I stayed here about 4 months, there was a lot of love and understanding for an alcoholic. And I really went for this, and I'm still here, so.
Well, didn't your desire to drink get in the way? Didn't you want to get out of here and get a drink everywhere?
No, because I've been drinking for practically 35 years, and I've had 20 years on the street. And the last time I went in DTs, I said that I would try to quit drinking, and I found help here.
Not everyone who enters the center is as fortunate as Ernie, but at least they're given an alternative to jail and more cheap wine. There was a special bike-a-thon today that started in Encino and ran its course throughout parts of the valley. It was McDonald's Bike Ride for Diabetes. Over 200 youngsters gathered at McDonald's on Ventura Boulevard in Encino to kick off the event. Also on hand were Congressman Alfonso Bell and Grand Marshal Gary Owens. As the largest fundraising event for Southern California's chapter of American Diabetes Association, today's bike meet was quite a success. The biker rode to several other McDonald locations in the valley. They got free food and drinks at each stop, and a 10-speed bike was awarded to the rider who raised the most money. Some bad news for renters, some good news for Rams fans, and another wish come true for the Emperor. Coming up next.
Allstate Savings knows these are lousy times to take chances with your nest egg. Bring your money to a place where it's safe, where you can get it when you need it. Bring your nest egg to Allstate Savings. There's an office near you. You're in good hands with Allstate. Allstate Savings, a member of the Sears family.
Let me show you what to look for in beefsteak. Government-graded USDA choice. Right away you know it's a terrific steak. This is what good marbling looks like. These little flecks of fat are the key to tenderness and flavor. And you ought to look for a steak with just about this much fat left on. How come I know so much? Well, beef is my business. I have to know what I'm talking about. I work for Safeway.
If you're gonna buy beef, buy from people who know it best. The experts at Safeway.
Before you buy any color TV, look for our seal. It tells you Quasar's Super Instamatic tuning adjusts to changes in room light, as the American Optometric Association recommends. So hurry in today and see Super Instamatic tuning and all the features on this high-performance Quasar color TV. See the quality that makes this solid-state model one of today's great values.
See Quasar at Cliff's TV and Appliance Rialto and Dale's TV Sales and Service San Bernardino.
If you rent a house or an apartment and haven't had to pay any more recently, don't hold your breath, you will. A Chicago housing analyst told a weekend convention in Anaheim that rates can be expected to skyrocket. The reason? An increasing shortage in housing plus inflation. What's more, Anthony Downs of Real Estate Research Corporation expects more cities to set up rent controls forced into them by the continuing formation of tenant groups. Ralph Nader talked about the need for more consumer groups today at the end of Consumer 75 on the Loyola Marymount campus in Los Angeles. Nader gave specific examples of how more money could be returned to the community.
The question basically is, why take the taxpayers' revenues and the state pension funds and turn them into profits for private banks who then use the money not for the community's benefit, but to further corporate mergers and conglomerate activities overseas? Why not keep them working in the community and any profits go back to relieve the tax burden? Now, there is a state-owned bank. There's been one for 50 years, one of the most Republican states in the Union, North Dakota. And if you ask some of these rock-ribbed Republican farmers in North Dakota what they would do with that state bank if they had a chance, they'd say, make it bigger. There it is. It serves a function. Student loans, credit to farmers, credit to municipalities. Very well managed and really spectacularly profitable. It just takes the profits, puts them back into the state treasury.
During the coming week, Joseph Benty will have a series of at-ease interviews with Nader. Emperor Hirohito got to do something today he's always wanted to do: watch an American football game. The Emperor and Empress Nagako joined some 60,000 fans at Shea Stadium to see the New York Jets play the New England Patriots. The royal couple received a warm welcome from attending sports fans. And now, if we may, let's have a warm welcome for my colleague Jim Murphy and a look at the day in sports. Jim?
Hirohito saw a pretty good game, too. Namath was at his best. Hadn't been that way for a long time. Well, the Rams were at their best for a while today. They came to life in the fourth quarter against Baltimore after almost blowing it in the first three quarters. It all started well enough. Cullen Bryant took the opening kickoff on his 8-yard line and returned it to the 45, a 37-yard gain and good field position. But then the Rams sputtered until the fourth quarter when James Harris got hot. He ended up completing 16 of 22 for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Rams won it 24-13. We'll have more Ram highlights and all the football news on Pro Football Beat immediately following the CBS Network news at 11:30. But football had a share of the stage with baseball today, and in New England at least, baseball won out. Carl Yastrzemski hit a 2-run homer and a double to lead the Red Sox to a 2-game lead in their best-of-5 American League Championship Series. That series resumes Tuesday in Oakland. In the National League, it's the same story. Cincinnati has a 2-game lead. And after today, the Pirates may just concede. The Reds made them look that bad. Like Ken Griffey's performance in the 6th inning. Now, Griffey stole second base. Then when Ed Armbruster missed a bunt, the Pirates had him dead on second on a pickoff. But he headed for third and slid in safely when Frank Tavares couldn't get the ball out of his glove. Ken Brett came in to relieve, and when he tried a pickoff at first, the ump called a balk, and Griffey trotted home with a 5-1 lead. The Pirates were just about out of it. The Reds got their last run in a more traditional fashion. Johnny Bench hitting a single to left field, which scored Joe Morgan from second. And that play is the story of the series thus far. It wasn't even close. So Cincinnati goes to Pittsburgh Tuesday, needing to win 1 out of 3 to get into the World Series. They should win at least that many. Unseeded and unranked Cynthia Durner of Australia got past Martina Navratilova into the finals of the Mission Viejo women's tennis tournament. But in the finals, she met up with Chris Evert, and the result was just what you'd expect. Chris beat her in straight sets, 6-1, 6-3, to win the $10,000 first prize. That brings her earnings for the year to $307,000. That's more money than any woman has ever won in a single season in any sport. And that's sports. Bob?
And can you imagine putting that money together with the $500,000 that Jimmy Connors has already made this year? And aren't there some rumors that they're talking again about getting married?
I don't know about that. I do know that after this tournament, Chris said that she was going to team up with Jimmy to play doubles against Billie Jean King and I think Marty Reason in Las Vegas. But as for marriage, I don't know. With that kind of money, neither of them needs to pool their resources.
I'll still bet they team up with each other against the world before too long.
We'll see.
Still to come on the Channel 2 News, Betty Ford was right.
At Standard Brands Paint and Decorating Centers, you'll save 10 to 50% on over 1,000 patterns of the latest wall coverings. Or choose from hundreds of in-stock papers from 79 cents a single roll. Like this pre-pasted paper, a $2.25 value for only 99 cents a single roll. Standard Brands Paint, top quality, expert advice, and everything sold with an unconditional money-back guarantee. 59 locations. Check the yellow pages for the one nearest you.
Don Rickles versus National Car Rental.
You signed this maintenance checklist?
Yes, sir. I inspected your Buick Century.
What'd you do before that? Inspect the Titanic?
Is there something wrong? I checked every item on the list. What about the wipers?
Or does my wife have to run alongside the car with an umbrella?
Sir, that's the lights. The lights? The wipers. The wipers.
National's Maintenance Checklist. It certifies the condition of your car in writing at most locations.
This man has worked a long, hard day, and he's got a lot of money to show for it. Other people's money. He's a pickpocket. His take, $700. It's dangerous to carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. If they're lost or stolen, you can get them back. Your vacation is protected. American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without them.
In her now famous interview on premarital sex and marijuana, Betty Ford said she was reasonably sure her children had at least experimented with pot. Well, now her youngest son, 23-year-old Jack Ford, has proved she was right on. In an interview in a Portland, Oregon newspaper, Jack admits he smoked marijuana while he was a student at Utah State University. He likened pot smoking to drinking beer or wine, so long as it's not abused. The young Ford also said he has never used hard drugs, although he has friends who do, but he says that does not disqualify them as his friends. Well, that's all the time from Channel 2 News. This is Bob Dunn. Jim Murphy and I'll be back next weekend. We hope you have a very nice weekend. Next, Dan Rather from New York, and at 11:30, Pro Football Beat with Jim Murphy. Have a pleasant week. Good night.
Know what your eyes are up against today? That. Tons of garbage, like smoke, chemicals, pollen, dust. Great for the eyes. You want more? Here. close work under harsh, glaring lights. No wonder your eyes burn, get red like this. Plain eye drops might soothe them, but only Visine has tetrahydrozoline to soothe and get the red out. The same eye after Visine. Soothing Visine gets the red out.
Today, throughout America, smart dressers are wearing the Banlon name. Discovered on some of the world's most exciting clothes. You'll find the Banlon tag only on clothes that meet America's highest quality standards. Banlon, we don't make fiber, fabric, or clothing. We make sure.
Dry Sack on the Rocks changed my mind about sherry. It stands up to ice, perfect before lunch or dinner. The Sherry in the Sack, imported by Julius Weil.
This is the CBS Weekend News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. Senator Frank Church today said the CIA actually tried to kill Cuba's Fidel Castro. The chairman of a Senate investigating committee, Church said evidence indicates real attempts, not just plans, against Castro's life were made during the administrations of 3 U.S. presidents, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Johnson. Church said on ABC's Issues and Answers that there is, quote, no hard evidence that any of those 3 presidents knew of the CIA's acts. CIA Director William Colby appeared on CBS's Face the Nation. Daniel Shore was one of those who interviewed him.
Colby confirmed that last December he referred to the Justice Department for investigation a series of possibly illegal CIA acts, including postal snooping and possible perjury by former Director Richard Helms, and that because of this he's been subject to criticism within the administration. He didn't dispute that his actions have been discussed with President Ford by Secretaries Kissinger and Schlesinger, and he came closer than he has before to indicating that he may be on his way out of his job.
I serve at the President's pleasure. It would depend, I think, on the restructuring that is finally decided, the developments from now on as to how things happen. At any time that either the President or I thought that the intelligence business would be better off with someone else, why, I would clearly withdraw.
It's reported that a plan for reorganizing the intelligence community with a new face at the top has already been tentatively approved by President Ford and is waiting to be announced after the current investigations are over. Daniel Shaw, CBS News, Washington.
If you've wanted a Pontiac Grand Prix since the day you first saw one, and year after year you've waited until you could afford Grand Prix handling, Grand Prix styling, then this is your year, and this is the new Grand Prix. Pontiac has just made the car you've been waiting for so affordable. Pontiac, the mark of great cars.
Buy a pack of Handy Wipes.
The more you use them, the more you save. Why?
Because when you wash them out,
They come back fresh and clean.
Handy Wipes could wash the dishes,
Wipe the cabinets.
wipe the stove,
Clean the wall.
clean a face.
A Handy Wipe can wipe a spill like grape juice and wash out fresh and clean.
Because Handy Wipes are strong, rinsable cloth that come back fresh and clean.
Handy Wipes. The more you use them,
The more you're going to save.
3 Spanish civil guards were killed and 2 seriously injured today when an explosion tore apart their Jeep. That attack occurred in Spain's Basque region. It apparently was retaliation for the executions of 2 Basque terrorists 8 days ago. The Spanish cabinet is meeting in emergency session to discuss what to do about terrorism in Spain. Portugal also continues having problems asserting the authority of government over the actions of terrorists. John Lawrence reports from Lisbon on a presidential appeal today to restore that authority.
In a ceremony marking the 65th anniversary of the founding of the Portuguese Republic, President Costa Gomez and other leaders of the new government appeared at Lisbon City Hall to review the armed forces, raise the national flag, and make speeches aimed at unifying this seriously divided country. Just back from Eastern Europe, the president had high praise for the economic system of Poland and the Soviet Union. The Portuguese people should learn from the orderly examples of socialism in those countries, he said. Discipline, order, and work, he proclaimed, are what Portugal needs now. But after the ceremony, there was a striking example of the kind of disorder that pervades in Portugal. Mario Suarez, the leader of the Socialist Party, was caught in a confrontation between his own supporters and dozens of ultra-leftists. Fascist traitor, the angry extremists cried, as Dr. Suarez tried to get into his car. He had to be rescued by naval policemen. It was one of several incidents in Portugal today in which radical leftists clashed with police and soldiers throughout the country. John Lawrence, CBS News, Lisbon.
3 American oil technicians working with an Egyptian company arrived today at a Sinai oil complex. One Israel has promised to return to Egypt. Israeli sources said Egypt had requested permission to send the technicians there, even though the Sinai Accord has not yet been formally implemented. The scheduled return of the Sinai now has Egypt celebrating what it considers its victory in the 1973 war with Israel. John Cheyenne reports from Ismailia.
This is the kind of welcome Egyptian President Anwar Sadat is getting from his countrymen 2 years after the war. Sadat, for the first time in his 4-year presidency, is facing mobs of cheering people. Up to now, he had been a distant president, and public demonstrations were uncommon in Egypt. The Egyptians are celebrating a war in which anything less than a resounding defeat was a victory for the previously vanquished Arabs. And Sadat has been telling his people that with the help of the United States, he is converting the 1973 war into total victory by getting Israel to withdraw step by step from Egyptian land. Sadat spent part of the 5-day celebration in what were battlefield towns along the Suez Canal. He received pledges of loyalty written in the blood of local citizens. At Ismailia, Sadat laid the cornerstone of a new university, and then went on to a cemetery of Egyptian war dead. In the streets, whirling dervishes and music symbolized Egypt's popular view that the costly 1973 war was a victory. John Cheyenne, CBS News, Ismailia.
Austrian voters today re-elected Chancellor Bruno Kreisky and his Socialist Party to 4 more years of power. Austria has been relatively unaffected by the inflation and unemployment which has struck other European countries. An estimated 60 leftist guerrillas today attacked an army post in northern Argentina. 11 soldiers and more than 15 guerrillas were reported killed. Another guerrilla group had also attacked the post but was repelled. Some of them fled to the nearby airport and were picked up by an Argentine Airlines jet, which had been hijacked earlier by a third group of guerrillas. The plane later crash-landed, and the guerrillas on board escaped.
The perfect roast. The result of another Litton microwave oven first. New Veritemp control. It lets me set the degree of doneness I want. The oven does the rest automatically. And it also comes with Vericook oven control that lets me cook, reheat, roast, simmer, warm, defrost. Litton takes the guesswork out of microwave cooking. Litton is changing the way America cooks.
It used to be most people didn't do anything about diarrhea except suffer. But today, Upjohn can help. Introducing new mint-flavored kaopectate concentrate. A lot of relief. And it tastes good, too. New kaopectate concentrate, with the ingredients doctors recommend 2 to 1 over anything else you can buy without a prescription. Today's way to help stop diarrhea from stopping you. New kaopectate concentrate.
Officials in Kansas City, Missouri charged today that striking firemen may be responsible for setting fires over the weekend. During the 3 days so far of the firemen's strike, there have been 92 blazes in Kansas City. The Firemen's Union denies the charges of city officials. During the strike, fires are being fought by teams of police, National Guardsmen, city public works employees, and volunteers. Some teams ending up, as this one did this morning, with a blaze they simply could not control. When the Supreme Court formally opens a new term tomorrow, 76-year-old Justice William O. Douglas will be on the bench. However, he will be watched closely for signs of how well he has recovered from last December's stroke. Attorney Fred Graham has a report now on the court's workload.
In recent years, the public has become accustomed to the Supreme Court stating great constitutional principles. But during the court term that begins tomorrow, the justices will turn to applying those principles to concrete situations. Their decisions will give answers to questions such as these. Should black workers who were previously denied jobs because of their race be compensated by placing them ahead of some whites in job seniority? Must employers give pregnant women disability pay just as they would a man who had a medical disability? Can white suburban communities be ordered by courts to accept low-income housing to help desegregate the inner cities? Can Congress sock it to the local taxpayer by making cities and states pay their employees the minimum wage? And can taxpayers invoke the Fifth Amendment to stop prosecutors from using their tax returns to convict them of cheating? From this, it's all clear that the upcoming Supreme Court term will be less exciting than before. But after the turmoil of recent years, there may be many who will find that a welcome relief. Fred Graham, CBS News, Washington.
You may remember the FBI's controversial COINTELPRO operation, a political counterintelligence unit believed to have been used most extensively during the middle years of the Nixon presidency for such things as anonymously mailing derogatory information about people whose politics the White House and the FBI didn't like. The FBI has claimed that the operation was formally terminated in April 1971. Previously classified documents made public today indicate that it was not. Those documents were obtained through a lawsuit by the Socialist Workers' Party. The president's 23-year-old son, Jack Ford, says he has smoked marijuana. He says he doesn't think that's, quote, so exceptional for someone his age. Ford told the Portland Oregonian newspaper he thinks pot smoking, if not abused, might be compared to the use of wine and beer in moderation. Ford said he has never used hard drugs, but that he has friends who do.
I forgot to reset my slow cooker.
Because so many slow cooker recipes call for high heat first, then low, Hamilton Beach designed the Crock Watcher, the only slow cooker that shifts automatically, cooks all day while you're away, so you don't have to reset it. Makes inexpensive meats tender and juicy. Works wonders with all kinds of foods. The Crock Watcher with automatic shift in stoneware or easy-to-clean glass crock.
You know, I'm enjoying my retirement more than ever. You want to know why? My savings and loan is offering a brand new service. I went in and signed a simple application. It means that from now on, my monthly Social Security checks will be mailed directly to my savings account. This new service is quick, safe, and a lot easier for me. And I sure like that high interest rate. Why not stop in at your savings and loan and sign up?
Grandpa, I got one!
The Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox are now within one game of entering the World Series. Morton Dean describes today's playoff games.
In Boston, Reggie Jackson's first-inning home run gave the A's an early lead, but they couldn't hold it. Reason? Carl Yastrzemski, a home run in the fourth, bringing the Red Sox to within one run of the A's. In the sixth, Yastrzemski again. A long double, and he would score the go-ahead and winning run for the Sox. Yastrzemski, in his 15th year with the Red Sox, had a great day at the bat and in the field. He choked off one Oakland threat by playing this bell to left perfectly and by throwing a strike to third base. Campanaris was out and unhappy. Petrocelli also homered for the Red Sox. The Sox had 12 hits, the A's 10. The Sox made them count. Final score, Boston 6, Oakland 3. In Cincinnati, the Reds had power and speed and used both to win and win big. Power from Tony Perez. A first-inning home run with a man on base to give the Reds enough runs, too, to ensure their victory. Still, the Reds ran and ran and ran. 7 stolen bases in this game, a playoff record. They have a total 10 stolen bases in the 2 playoff games. The Reds also hit today a total of 12 hits. The Pirates had only 5. Final score, the Cincinnati Reds 6, Pittsburgh Pirates 1. Morton Dean, CBS News.
For CBS News, Dan Rather in New York, thank you for joining us.
This has been the CBS Weekend News with Dan Rather. For the latest news early, watch the CBS Morning News with Hughes Rudd and Bruce Morton. Guest star Mary Tyler Moore learns the awful truth about Phyllis' first day on the job when she visits her friend. Cloris Leachman stars as Phyllis tomorrow night on CBS.
Robinsons presents Estee Lauder's fabulous gift, The Great Performers. Their Swiss Performing Extract, Lustrous Roll-On Mascara, Soft Film Compact Rouge, Renutriv Rich Lipstick, and Estee Perfumed Body Cream. This $17 value is yours with any $6 Estee Lauder purchase. What a wonderful time to be an Estee Lauder woman. Your Estee Lauder gift is available through October 18th at Robinsons, Southern California.
Now you can earn over 8% on insured savings. Get the big GW behind you. At Great Western Savings, you actually earn 8.06% when we compound your interest daily to 7.75. You double your money in less than 9 years. Get the big GW behind you. $5 billion strong. Great Western Savings.
You ever see business as confusing as it is today? Well, I can't afford to be confused.
The Wall Street Journal. It works for you.
The best of CBS presentation of The Longest 100 Miles will be seen at 11:40, immediately following Pro Football Beat.
Harris drops back to pass, and he looks, and there's Harold Jackson cutting over the middle. Harris puts the ball up, and Jackson has it for the touchdown. That was just one of 2 touchdowns James Harris threw today as the Rams beat Baltimore 24-13. I'm Jim Murphy, and I'll be back with the Rams and all the football on Pro Football Beat.
Channel 2 News presents Jim Murphy on the Pro Football Beat, a complete roundup of the day's action in pro football, sponsored in part by the Goodyear Service Stores of Southern California.
You know, if all we did at Goodyear was sell and mount tires, we wouldn't need all these guys. Bill here, been our tune-up man for some time. His experience really makes a difference. He's a good man. And Clarence over there, front end and brakes are his specialty. These guys will always take the time to give your car the VIP treatment. That's because they're pros. And right now, they'll lube your car and change the motor oil for just $4.88. So be good to your car and go Goodyear.
You know, it's nothing out of the ordinary for car makers to have clearance sales at this time of the year. But now, Mazda Motors of America announces something that is out of the ordinary. A clearance sale on the only wagon that combines room, comfort, and uncanny rotary engine performance. It's Mazda's first official clearance sale. It's no ordinary clearance sale, because Mazda is no ordinary car.
Your Mazda dealer is making room for 76. Make your best deal now.
The Rams came alive in the fourth quarter today to beat Baltimore. The game started like it would be a runaway. Cullen Bryant took the kickoff on the 8 and blew straight up the middle to the 45. A return of 37 yards and good field position. But the Rams couldn't capitalize on it. James Harris found Jim Bertelsen cutting over the middle for a 22-yard gain to the Baltimore 27, but the drive ended with a fumble. Baltimore didn't sputter when they got a shot. Burt Jones sent running back Bill Olds out on a little swing pass, and Olds turned it into a 28-yard touchdown. He just made it into the corner of the end zone, but that made it 7-0. Well, the Rams came back when Harold Jackson went out on a fly pattern, and Harris put the ball in his hands for a 7-7 tie. And there it is. But the Rams were the team playing catch-up, and Jones gave them something to catch when he hit tight end Jim Kennedy on a little 3-yard slant out for the go-ahead touchdown. The Colts missed the extra point, but Harris was getting warmed up. He finished with 16 of 22 passing for 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. This pass to Cullen Bryant gained 18 yards. In the fourth quarter, the Rams struck when Lawrence McCutcheon blasted up the middle for a 25-yard touchdown. Made it 17-13, the first time the Rams had the lead. They got the ball back on a Dave Elmendorf interception, and Harris put the game out of reach with a perfect touchdown pass to Ron Jesse. The defender was all over him, but Jesse made the catch, and that made it 24-13, and that's how it ended. The Rams beat a Baltimore team that's better than it was supposed to be. Well, the 49ers showed some offense as Norm Snead threw for a touchdown, and Larry Shriver ran 5 yards for another. Kansas City was never really in it. They picked up 124 yards in penalties. Atlanta and New Orleans played for the cellar spot in the NFC West, and the Saints won it. They won the cellar, that is. Tight end Jim Mitchell was a one-man gang for the Falcons. He took this pass from Steve Bartkowski and a good hit from a defender, but he didn't go down until they ganged up on him. Ken Burrow caught a touchdown pass from Bartkowski on a slant to the middle of the end zone. 9 yards, 7 points. But the play of the day was this Bartkowski to Burrow pass. He fumbles it at the 38, and here comes Mitchell, who dribbles it out to the 50 and then gets a handle on it and goes all the way for the touchdown. The play covered 77 yards. Call it a pass, fumble, dribble, run, just the way they planned it. And that was the decisive score in a 14-7 victory. So with all those games, the Rams are still on top in the NFC West. The 49ers are 1 game out along with the Falcons, and New Orleans is yet to win a football game. Not a very tough division. The Eastern Division's a different ball game, and that's where the upset of the day happened. The Philadelphia Eagles manhandled George Allen's Redskins. The Eagles got a touchdown out of this wild pass play. The pass is intended for Charlie Young, but it gets batted around, and finally 6'7" Harold Carmichael comes up with it and goes 50 yards for the touchdown. The Eagles forced 6 turnovers, but on this play, it was Gabriel to Carmichael again to set up a field goal at the 10-yard line. And it wasn't just an upset, it was a romp. Well, still in the NFC East, the St. Louis Cardinals came back from last week's sudden death loss to the Cowboys with a victory over the Giants. And there was nothing sudden about it. By the way, those Cowboys didn't play today. They'll face the Detroit Lions tomorrow night. But the Cardinals had no trouble with the Giants. Jim Hart got him on the scoreboard with a touchdown strike to Mel Gray in the corner of the end zone. Gray and the ball got to the same place at the same time, 7 points. The Giants were having some trouble. Walker Gillette fumbled this Craig Morton pass, and Mark Arneson recovered at the 18 to set up a touchdown by Terry Metcalf of Cal State Long Beach. And watch Metcalf just blow through that line. He almost disappears there for a minute. He comes out the other side. Hart set up the next touchdown with the ultimate weapon, the bomb. And watch this, it's a beauty. Earl Thomas flies down the sideline a step ahead of the defenders to make a great catch and put the ball on the 10-yard line. Right there, that's beautiful. Hart was 8 of 20 for the afternoon, 125 yards passing. Both Metcalf and Jim Otis gained more than 100 yards. Otis got a few of his on this touchdown that put the game out of reach. The Cardinals won it 26-14. Well, now here's how that dogfight stacks up in the NFC East. Dallas had the day off. The Redskins lost to the Eagles, and St. Louis beat New York. So if Dallas loses to the Lions tomorrow, they'll have a 3-way tie, with the other 2 clubs only a game back. And I think it'll look that way all the way to the playoffs. Well, that won't be the problem in the Central Division, not with the Vikings tearing things up. They make it look easy, and against the Bears, maybe it is. Fran Tarkenton threw 3 touchdowns, this one to John Gilliam for 8 yards. Francis was 19 of 30 for 250 yards passing, and Chuck Foreman got a touchdown on the ground. It was no contest. The Packers had the misfortune of facing the Dolphins on a day when Mercury Morris was ready to run for 125 yards, and Don Nottingham gained 102. That added up to another loss for Bart Starr, as the Pack was never really in the ball game. And that leaves the Packers winless and at the bottom of the division. They're even behind the Bears, and that shouldn't happen to anybody. The Lions should get their first loss tomorrow night, and Minnesota, well, they may never lose. Houston and Cincinnati hooked up in a thriller. It took 2 fourth-quarter passes from Ken Anderson to pull it out over a much-improved Houston team. For the Oilers, Billy Johnson gained 231 yards on kickoff and punt returns. But all that wasn't quite enough. Now, the Steelers murdered the Browns in an AFC Central game today, almost literally. The big play of the game was a brawl between Mean Joe Green and Tom DeLeon, a second-string center for the Browns. When they weren't fighting, Terry Bradshaw was completing passes, 151 yards worth. But the Steelers aren't leading their division. The Bengals are undefeated, and the Steelers have that loss to Buffalo. Houston's better than they used to be, and Cleveland is worse. Well, this could be Buffalo's year. They demolished Denver today for the Broncos' first loss. The game was all Buffalo, like this play. Billy Van Heusen loses this Charlie Johnson pass, and Donnie Green picks it up and heads down the sideline. He almost goes all the way, but he gets tackled with a deadly clothesline tackle at the 1. Well, that set it up for Jim Braxton to score the first of his 3 touchdowns. Braxton gained over 100 yards today, and so did O.J. Here he gets a hard 12 of them, all for 138 yards. It was the 27th game he's gone over 100. The Bills were tough in the air, too. Joe Ferguson hit Braxton with this 19-yard pass for his 2nd touchdown of the day, and Ferguson connected with J.D. Hill on a pretty play for another touchdown as the Bills showed the kind of offense that says Super Bowl. But Super Bowl would be a wild dream without O.J. He took this pitch out and went 16 yards. His day's work put him at 5th place on the all-time NFL rushing list. Well, the Jets had themselves a time against New England, the place Joe Namath likes better than any other. Every time he goes up there, he beats the Patriots. And once again today, the game was all Joe Namath. Broadway Joe threw 4 touchdown passes as part of a day in which he was 15 for 21. This one was to Rich Castor, and so was the next one. So were 2 of his touchdown passes. The other 2 were to Jerome Barkham. Well, Joe is just hitting all over the field. It was the kind of day Namath used to have routinely, but the kind we haven't seen him have for a couple of years now. It was nice to see him back in the groove. But it wasn't all passing. Carl Garrett ran 6 yards for a touchdown, and once he was in, with this little touchdown, you'll see him give it an over-the-head spike. Very good style. The Jets made it a rout. Well, the wind moved the Jets into a tie with the Dolphins, but all that's good for is 2nd place. Those Bills have the top spot all to themselves. Baltimore slipped below 500 with today's loss to the Rams, and New England might as well still be on strike. Well, Oakland was supposed to be all but invincible this year, but today they won a game they would have lost to any team but San Diego. The Raiders got 2 field goals out of George Blanda, and that's all they got against the San Diego team that Houston ran all over last week. That's a messy game. It was a bad day for Oakland. So the Raiders are 3-0, although they don't deserve to be. That's got to hurt Denver. Kansas City and San Diego, well, it doesn't much matter to them. Well, that's today's action in the NFL. We'll be back with more pro football after this.
You know, if all we did at Goodyear was sell them out tires, we wouldn't need all these guys. Bill here, been our tune-up man for some time. His experience really makes a difference. He's a good man. And Clarence over there, front end and brakes are his specialty. These guys will always take the time to give your car the VIP treatment. That's because they're pros. And right now, they'll lube your car and change the motor oil for just $4.88. So be good to your car and go Goodyear.
And this is a person who would boil a missionary.
Cannibal.
No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
You should always...